So it's an interesting question of whether or not Iran is going to collapse. Have they taken all the hits they can take, unable to actually fight back? Trump is demanding unconditional surrender, and Democrats won't fund Homeland Security. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Radio show's coming in. Let's begin.
We obviously see those, those folks every single day. They do great work here in Connecticut. I am so sad that they are working for a president that is committed to this scale of illegality and brutality. This is what John said, right? We swore an oath when we became U.S. senators and congressmen that we would uphold the Constitution and that we would in turn refuse to fund a government that was deliberately acting illegally.
No one's acting illegally, Chris Murphy. This is what happens when you're a beta male and you pee sitting down. Well, I'm sorry, was that too soon? Was that too early in the show? Did I have to wait? Because I'll come back to that. No? Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. No one is acting illegally. No one is acting illegally regarding Iran. No one is acting illegally regarding ICE. No one. That's a lie. So why don't you instead, Senator Murphy, you absolute man-child, why don't you just say there have been actions that we disapprove of? And then why don't you really say, we want to hurt Donald Trump in the midterms. We think this will do it. And we don't care if Americans die in the process. Hurting Trump is our number one goal. F that guy. Why not just say it? By the way, you're standing next to a guy, Richard Blumenthal, fellow senator from Connecticut, who lied about his Vietnam service. Don't go and lecture to us regarding morality, sir. You don't have it. You're not capable of it. They're not funding the Department of Homeland Security. Even though Kristi Noem has been let go, she will no longer be the Secretary of Homeland Security. As we discussed yesterday, it will be Mark Wayne Mullen. There will be the nomination is already there. There will be confirmation hearings in the Senate, as they are required to do. I assume it'll be 52 votes. That is my take. That it will be 52 votes. And Mark Wayne Mullen will be approved as the next Secretary of Homeland Security. These people aren't interested in a better country. They're interested in the destruction of their political enemies, solely and exclusively, nothing else. But let us take it to Iran, where the president has been very clear, unconditional surrender. As we're hearing the reporting, they have no capacity right now to fight back. It's not air superiority. It is, as described, air supremacy. We control the skies over Iran and over Tehran. We have engaged a massive bombing assault on Tehran, and we have been told that a surge is coming. We have been told that there is more that will take place. It has been 7 days. We're also hearing that the Russians are now giving the Iranians locations of U.S. military assets. Well, if that's the way they want to play it, if that's what they want to do, I'm not sure how the response is going to go. I can't tell you whether or not there is going to be some type of retaliation against the Russians for aiding the Iranian regime. The question is whether or not the Iranian regime exists after this. What does it mean? Unconditional surrender. President Trump putting on Truth Social that the only thing he's willing to accept is this unconditional surrender. There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader, and he puts S in parentheses, meaning leaders, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump, and you say to me, whoa, 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 Donald Trump is involved in nation building? For the record, I would oppose on every level any dollar for nation building. I would absolutely favor them using oil money to rebuild whatever it was that was destroyed. I'd favor that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Nation building of Iran? No, 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 no. They're going to have to rebuild, but they've got the dollars by which they can do so. What seems obvious is that they do not have the capability to fight back. That seems to be over. The IDF has launched its 15th wave of strikes on the Iranian regime, getting infrastructure in Tehran and in Isfahan. The question is, how are you going to break the IRGC? The only question is, how will you get them to crack? How will you get them to walk away so the people can walk out of their doors without being shot at? That is the question. And I don't have that answer. Don't have that for you. But I can tell you that we do have a very interesting look at who our allies are. This is Keir Starmer. This is the Prime Minister, and we have discussed that he has been absolutely wimpy on this subject. This was him, I believe, this morning.
The long-standing British position is that the best way forward for the regime and the world is a negotiated settlement with Iran where they give up their nuclear ambitions. Now, that's why I took the decision that the UK would not join the initial strikes on Iran by the US and Israel. Now, that decision was deliberate. It was in the national interest, and I stand by it. But when Iran started attacking countries around the Gulf and the wider region, the situation changed. Iran has now fired drones and missiles at 10 countries that did not attack them. These are allies of the UK, where we have hundreds of thousands of British people, as well as British military personnel. Our number one priority is protecting our people.
So we didn't want to get involved, and then we had to get involved because it turns out the Iranian regime is totally unstable. We could have told you that. That's not why you didn't get involved. And we really do have to ask ourselves whether or not this Britain is indeed our ally. Oh, so Tony, we have to agree with you about everything in order to be an ally? Let's start with a baseline. If you don't agree that the Iranian regime is a terrorist regime, we can't agree about anything. We're not going to agree about anything. Which leads us to Democrats. There was a vote, a non-binding resolution that reaffirms that Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Very simple stuff. Stuff that we know to be true. Iran sponsors terrorism. The end. When they had this vote a couple years back, or maybe it was just last year, it was 420 people to one person. I forget who the one person was right now. Someone, if they want to look it up, I'd appreciate it. This vote as to the idea of who voted, well, 53 Democrats voted against. In the House of Representatives, 53 Democrats voted against a simple statement that Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. Every Republican, Thomas Massey, voted in favor of such a thing. Wait, did he? Well, there were 3 no votes, so maybe he didn't. Maybe he just didn't vote. Who votes against such a thing that we know to be true? Congressman Andre Carson of Indianapolis, Congressman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, Congressman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. I should have said Congresswoman. Sometimes I just say it in the vernacular. Let the sexist people send me an email. Go ahead. Go ahead. If you're upset, send me an email. Send it to hughhewitt@yahoo.com. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, as I said, voted against it. Ayanna Pressley voted against it. McIver, the one who tried to enter the ICE facilities in New Jersey and was attacking ICE agents, voted against it. Ro Khanna voted against it. Dear Lord, Eric Swalwell voted in favor. How much of a leftist do you have to be not to vote for something that is so obvious? So our issue is not just with Great Britain. It is with a radical, despicable, progressive party that won't admit that Iran is the enemy of free and thinking people, because it is. It just is. So am I supposed to listen to them or their leftist acolytes when they scream and yell about, look at this war that America has started? America didn't start this war. Just make sure we keep that in mind. This got started when the Iranian regime took hostages in 1979. That's when it got started. So let's not kid ourselves. What is the left going to say now? Well, look at this. You attack Iran and then you bomb the girls' school. If you remember, the reporting was that this school got bombed. And then it was, look what the Israelis did. And then there was the reporting of an Iranian missile misfired and hit the school. It immediately was, look what the Israelis did. Then it was, looks like Iranian misfire. Now the United States is looking at it because what if they hit the wrong target? And what if they hit this school that killed 160 girls? That's horrifying. And there are people who are going to be called to the carpet on it, and I would argue rightfully so. Rightfully so. I want to make sure that my position is clear. We're all on the same subject. The left does, the political right, I should say, doesn't want to call it a war. The left is calling it a war, and they're saying that's why you need to have Congress declare war and all that. The right is calling it a conflict, and for the record, the president is well within his authority with the War Powers Act. He just is. There's no debate here. End of list. Thank you, Cleveland. Good night. I don't care what the left says. The president is well within his authority. When you make a mistake, if the mistake was made, well, some people are going to have to answer for why they made the mistake. But you know, they call war hell for a reason. I don't like this. I want to know what happened. Investigate away. That's the difference between us and them, by the way. They killed 160 kids. They'd be like, great. Oh, by the way, I'm not so sure that I believe the number because that's what Iranian state media is reporting. What am I going to do? Believe them like I believe Hamas? No thanks. Not going for that game. But you'll notice we take it seriously that we are now investigating. These things will happen, and this is awful. Does that change my mind about taking out the Iranian regime, which has murdered tens of thousands of Iranian citizens? Never mind their attacks on Americans, whether it's citizens or whether it's members of our military. Not for a second. The weakness of the left does not move me at all. I do not cower in the corner from their screaming, yelling, caterwauling, and clutching of pearls. They aren't serious people. They won't even recognize that Iran is the state sponsor of terrorism. 53 out of what? 212 are there? 25% of Democrats can't even admit that Iran sponsors terrorism? No wonder you see all the insanity on social media that you see. These people aren't serious. They're not serious. I'm waiting to see whether or not the regime folds, whether it collapses. And I'm waiting to see what leadership comes in place. And I want it written in stone that it will be no one connected to the Ayatollah or the current ruling class of mullahs, hardliners, and clerics who are murderers and abusers. And then, when Iran is no longer a terrorist regime, let us look to see what happened in every action and who amongst us needs to be held responsible, because that's who we are. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. I missed a bunch of comments. Everyone's saying hello to each other. Everyone's being personally. By the way, so one of the things we're talking about, I'll have my interview with Guy Relford, Second Amendment attorney. A person can drink alcohol and still have gun rights, so why can't it be the same for weed? This was actually something discussed in this Hemani case, and we go over it in the interview, so I look forward to sharing it with you. Fascinating. Because when I first saw the case, I'm like, I am confused by everything I'm talking about. We get into a conversation about possession, no, not of weed, of the firearm. The difference between owning a gun and possessing a gun, that's crazy. So wait for that. Was that Quiet Supernova? Wait for that, my friend. I appreciate you being here. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into that whole conversation. By the way, why am I saying by the way? Jeffrey's asking, are we talking about breakfast cereals? We talk about everything here. Breakfast cereals are delicious. I'm not going to lie. Honey Nut Cheerios, greatest cereal of all time. But if you gave me a bowl of Apple Jacks, I'd eat them right now. And I didn't get to have them as a kid because my mother didn't love me. I don't want to talk about it, producer Landon. I don't. Yeah. Fruit Loops were wonderful. Fruit Loops were absolutely wonderful. But I'm still with the Apple Jacks. Still with the Apple Jacks. Was everybody waiting to drop all the insanity about James Tallarico, the Democrat candidate for Senate in Texas? Holy mackerel. Tony Katz Today, Good to be with you. Don't forget, the chat is open. The live stream is happening. Go to YouTube. Just go to Tony Katz and subscribe. And you get in the chat and you realize that while the world is on fire, they're talking about breakfast cereal. The chat room is very, very focused. Join the kittens in there and hang out. James Tallarico in June of 2022 sent a letter to the president of the United States. Remember, he was a state rep in Texas at the time. And he sends a letter to President Biden. Dear Mr. President, writes James Tallarico, this is who the Democrats nominated over Jasmine Crockett to be their nominee, just proving that Texas Democrats are racist. They all talk about the whiteness and the patriarchy and the white and all the white and then what do? They elect the whitest person humanly possible. Him and the other whitest person humanly possible, Stephen Colbert, conspired to keep a black woman, Jasmine Crockett, off of TV. I, for one, am shocked. Hold on, that's just in. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked in no way. In no way I am shocked. I actually, I probably bet money on this and have to go collect my winnings. Okay, got it. Dear Mr. President, writes James Tallarico in June of 2022, decades of jurisprudence and majorities of Americans have repeatedly affirmed the constitutional right to an abortion. Oh, okay. Yet an anti-choice minority has taken advantage of the undemocratic loopholes in our political system to impose their radical program on our country. You mean the Supreme Court made a decision you don't like? When the Supreme Court makes a decision that Democrats don't like, it's undemocratic loopholes and it's a radical program, and the anti-choice minority has taken advantage. Okay, got it. The minority is threatening our most basic rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Leaders at all levels must use every tool in the toolbox to protect our freedoms. We must take extraordinary steps to counter this extraordinary subversion of the public will. This guy really likes his mob mentality. He does, but understand that this is a guy who's got some weird theories. This is James Tallarico a few years back.
For me, prophetic voices like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness, my own masculinity, my own certainty, my own ego. It's a never-ending process, and it's a painful process.
I'm sorry. What? He's there at a church. He's speaking to people assembled. Oh, did you need to hear that again? Hold on. Everyone's screaming no, but I know you mean yes.
For me, prophetic voices like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness, my own masculinity, my own certainty, my own ego. It's a never-ending process, and it's a painful process.
I have no idea what he's saying, and neither do you. None. But when you are a progressive, these are the kinds of ridiculous things that you say. That brings us back to the letter where he wrote to the president, on behalf of my constituents, I urge you and your administration to consider taking the following executive actions to protect the right to an abortion: leasing federal property to abortion clinics on federal lands or in federal offices, hiring abortion providers as federal employees to provide immunity from state lawsuits. He wanted abortions to be performed in government buildings in response to decisions from the Supreme Court. He's the Democrats' candidate for Senate. I'm Tony Katz. Yeah. By the way, you think I can make this up? There's the letter. There it is. There's the letter. I don't make up anything. I don't lie about a damn thing. By the way, it's true. I don't. The days of my depression, the days of being suicidal were the days where I lied to myself about everything. And when I stopped lying to myself, everything got better. So I do not I do not do it. I couldn't make this up. If I wanted to, would not have the skill set to do so. Jennifer Welch was at the GLAAD Awards ceremony, and she's that podcaster with the face that plastic surgery said, good enough. Like it's that. And she's screaming, F ICE, F Donald Trump, free Palestine, and save trans kids. Okay. These progressives are just wholly diseased. Completely and totally. Don't ask me to have any respect. It's just not going to happen. Oh, then I've got Barack Obama. That's right. I'm going to torture the living crap out of you. Why do I hate the people? Asked producer Landon. Let me explain it. It's not that I hate you. It's that it's not. I have a love for you like you wouldn't believe. And if you're not careful, I will bed you all this evening. I share this with you because I believe that if I have to be tortured, well, no, it's not for anybody's good. None of this is for anybody's freaking good. Are you kidding, producer Landon? This is all just stupid. I'll tell you this. For the first time in months, I just hit the air conditioning in the studio. It's 9,000 degrees outside. Tomorrow, 12 below. Welcome to Indiana. What can we do for you today? So true. You know what's really weird? This is the quietest Friday I have seen in a while. All right. There are people attending the Jesse Jackson Memorial, and I want no part of that. Thank you. No public statements, nothing from congressional Republicans, nothing from the White House. Zero. Hold on a second. Kip. Hi, Kip. That's a great comment. That's a great comment. I'll be sure to tell my wife and kids that you say hello. You're very brave and very funny and very strong, and we're all just in awe of you. Bye, Kip. Good Lord. People, I mean, it's that all day, every day. You're right, Beth. You're right. He is correct. I do not have a girlfriend. Accurate. Dang it. How did I miss that line? Oh, Beth, you stink to high heaven. How did I miss that? Oh. President Obama is concerned about the vote, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he's not concerned enough to pass the SAVE Act, but former President Obama is all in his feelings about some things. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you live streaming on YouTube. Check it out for yourself. Just go to YouTube, go to Tony Katz, boom, subscribe, you're done. And don't forget to hit the like button. I'm told there's a like button and that we should be like, hit the like button. I don't know. Like it, don't like it. I'm going to keep doing it. I have not heard this yet. There's sometimes that I'm like, I hear something like, oh, I got to share it with you. And there's sometimes where I'm like, I want to hear this with you. I want us to experience it together. Right? And you say to me, Tony, why would you play Barack Obama on this show? Because I believe in the suffering, there is love. That's a weird thing to say. I don't actually believe that. Let's hear what President Obama has to say about voting, shall we?
Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy.
That's why you need to pass the SAVE Act. I'm Barack Obama. Voter ID is good, and people opposed to voter ID are stupid. Voter ID, I'm Barack Obama. What? Oh, we don't know what he says? Okay. Well, he starts with something we can at least agree with. He starts with the baseline that indeed we want free and fair elections.
But right now, they are under threat.
What? Under threat? What have the Democrats done this time, Barack Obama?
Over the past year, several Republican-controlled states have taken the unprecedented step of redrawing their congressional maps in the middle of the decade.
Oh, this is an older video. Oh, you want to talk about redistricting, Mr. President? Oh, gosh, I didn't know we were going to talk about redistricting. Let's talk about redistricting with Democratic Governor Abigail Spanberger.
Hello, I'm Governor Abigail Spanberger, and I'm voting yes on Virginia's redistricting amendment.
Oh, well, according to Barack Obama, Abigail Spanberger, you are a direct threat to the future of the safety of elections in the United States, and something must be done about this. You cannot make this stuff up. When Republicans do it, it is the worst thing that ever happened. When Democrats do it, why are you looking at us? Why are you paying attention? We're just saving America. What's wrong? What's the big deal? Why are you paying attention? Why are you looking at us? Why are you so obsessed with us? All you and your culture wars. You just want to date us. Good Lord. Abigail Spanberger said she had absolutely no intention of engaging redistricting. And now she's saying, my gosh, we have to do this right away.
Here's why. I supported the formation of Virginia's bipartisan redistricting commission in 2020, and that support has not changed. What has changed is what we're seeing in states across the country, and a president who says that he's, quote, entitled to more Republican seats before this year's midterms. That's a direct quote, entitled. And Virginia has the opportunity to take action in response.
Just a note to the people, you know, I live in Indiana, if you didn't know, and to the Indiana Republicans who did not redistrict. I told you! Oh, you were above it all, were you? You were going to really do the right thing. Do you not understand who you're fighting against? I would appreciate less stupid. I mean, I said it. I'll say it directly to you. I am a fellow of the Mitch Daniels Leadership Foundation. I like Mitch Daniels tremendously, personally and professionally. And he wrote in the Washington Post that Indiana shouldn't redistrict, and he was wrong because he is not willing to engage the fight as it is, not the way we want it, the way that it is. This is Barack Obama having the audacity to tell you that we are under threat because Republicans are redistricting. But it's the Democrats who then redistricted. And where's the threat, Barack Obama? Where is the threat?
And they've done it for a simple reason, to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms this fall. In April, Virginians can respond by making sure your voting power is not diminished by what Republicans are doing in other states. This amendment gives you the power to level the playing field in the midterms this fall. And voters will have the final say over what the maps look like.
So I guess it wasn't a older video. It is a recent video where Democrats are willing to say out loud, yeah, it's okay if we do this. It's just not okay if they do this. Republicans are amongst the dumbest people on the planet because they have no concept of how to fight. I am very big on this idea. The idea of what it means to fight and making sure that we apply definition to it. Because people think that, you know, that fighting is something physical. No. It's leftists who scream, punch a Nazi. Well, who's a Nazi? Well, anybody we disagree with is a Nazi. Disgusting, vile people. They're the ones who believe in tearing down cities, setting things on fire. They're the ones on the attack. That's who they are. We have enough video of Antifa to be able to show such things. Fighting is about winning. Fighting is about policy and philosophy. Fighting is about never accepting a narrative. And that's where this starts. Everything Abigail Spanberger and Barack Obama said there's a lie. Barack Obama is a liar. Republicans redistricted in Texas. I believe it was North Carolina. Democrats redistricted in California. And they're trying to in Virginia and Maryland. And they're trying to in other states. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And we should be clear that I don't believe that it's wrong. I have never said that it's wrong. Redistricting is a political process that can indeed happen in the middle of a decade. We look at redistricting as something that happens with the census. The census determines population. A representation in Congress is determined by that population, and then new maps are drawn based on that. You could argue that Republicans had no need to engage redistricting because when you take a look at what's going to happen in 2030, with California losing seats and other of these left-leaning states losing seats, things are going to move anyway. Well, that is true, but the president wanted to push redistricting. If I was advising him, I'd tell him, nah. But I didn't get to advise him, and Texas did it. I said at the time, well, then that's an issue for Texans. If Texans don't like it, remember, nothing would change to their local representation, their statewide representation. They could vote those people right out. But there's nothing illegal about mid-decade redistricting. Nothing. Every argument's counter is a lie. Do not believe lies. Do not buy into lies. Do not buy into that narrative. It is legal. It is a political process. Now, you could argue that you don't like it. Okay, I can accept that. But it is a legal process. Republicans in states like mine forgot that they owe a responsibility to the nation. Legislatures decide how these things work, and they have a larger responsibility to the nation. And I say this in the same moment I say out loud that we should repeal the amendment of the direct election of senators, and those senators should be appointed by the states, because I do not appreciate it when legislatures are not allowed to engage their full powers. Nothing could be more important than the representatives of the people, local to the people, making the decision about representation in Washington that will best represent them and not represent a political party. Republicans forgot that they were in a fight. They thought they were engaged in a concept of civility. There's a massive problem with the definition of civility, because some people think civility is please and thank you and all that jazz. Civility is not please and thank you and all that jazz. That's not what civility is. Civility is the majority not tyrannizing the minority. Civility is the minority not acting in an undemocratic way to try and destroy the majority. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I sat there when I lived in California after Barack Obama was elected. I'm sitting at my kitchen table. It's late. My brother's there. My wife is there. I'm eating a bagel. I don't know why it was a bagel, but it was. And could not believe it. Could not believe how horrifying it was that America voted for a guy that progressive, nay communist. We knew the story. But they did. What did I do? Tried to get Mitt Romney elected. Turned out Mitt Romney didn't actually want to get elected because he beat Barack Obama in the first debate, and then he decided, nah, I'm good. That's what happened. You can say anything you want about Romney right now, post-Trump, but then he had it, and he allowed Candy Crowley to decide how to talk for him in a debate. He won that first debate. He then just got himself knocked around exactly like a Mitt Romney gets knocked around, and the rest is history. Republicans have a long history of not fighting because they think that it's about civility. Civility does not mean the absence of fighting. And the first thing you do in a fight is you never accept their narrative. They lie. Free and fair elections, says Barack Obama, when Democrats do it, but not when Republicans do it. What a fraud. And there was a story regarding Indiana that somehow a gentleman's deal was made with Maryland. You don't redistrict, we don't redistrict. What is Maryland trying to do? Redistrict. You believe them? They hate you. They want to destroy you. You understand that the left, if they get power, really does want to put the political right, in their words, not mine, in re-education camps. They absolutely believe this stuff. They believe that they are pious and we need to be destroyed. We need to be reprogrammed. Dude, I'm free and good, and so are you. We agree, we disagree, we drink a little bourbon, life's all right. My politics are based on what I think it takes to best to have a free country. Their politics are their religion. So you understand that we're dealing with a cult, and you have to fight it in that way. And you can never give in to their narrative. You want to redistrict Republicans? It's pure evil. They want to do it. Well, then it's quite all right. And why do you care? Why are you paying attention? That is what Barack Obama and Governor Abigail Spanberger are selling right now. Unbelievable. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today, guys. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Let me. Oh, I see some angry people in the chat with the cursing and the. Oh my gosh! You just got deleted. How did that happen? Say what? No way. Oh, way. Huge way. All right, let's get rid of that. Right now, I'm just checking news, seeing if anything else has come out. I am surprised that we're not hearing anything from the White House. Let's see. Let's see where else we are. Oh, no kidding. All right. I've got that. And then I've got a conversation with Guy Relford. Then we've got a conversation regarding the socialists. I will get to. It's an interesting because there's a poll that Fox News had regarding capitalism or socialism, and it needs to be aggressively discussed because it's super dangerous. And then, there was this woman stabbed to death by an illegal immigrant in Virginia, and you've got law enforcement in Virginia, legislators in Virginia blaming Trump and ICE. True story. True, insane story. All right, we're coming back to the show. Looking forward to that. And I think I've got everything. My question to the socialists, who's going to pick up the garbage? We all pick up the garbage. We make the garbage, and then we pick up the garbage, and we make the garbage, and we pick up the garbage, and that way you have full employment. I mean, that's the logic. Oil prices making their move upward today. Yeah, gas prices are going to go up more than I anticipated. Tony Katz today, West Texas crude cracked 90 at one moment, hitting 91.85 a barrel. Brent crude, which is the oceans, coming out of the oceans, over $93 a barrel. That is rough. That is rough stuff. This because you have a closure in the Straits of Hormuz. And once you get the strait open, this will start dropping. This has got to be a key focus of the United States. You absolutely knew that this could happen. This is not surprising at all. Surprising that is that a petition to require voter ID that says only U.S. citizens can vote has gotten more than 875,000 signatures, which was the threshold. It has 1.3 million signatures, and this is California. California Voter ID Initiative, 1.3 million signatures across every county, 58 counties in California. Which means on the ballot it goes, because this is how California works, unless Gavin Newsom is going to try and pull a fast one and say, no, we're not going to allow that. So, why would we ever have anybody opposed to voter ID? Something else Republicans have to start talking about. Democrats want fraud. Democrats are trying for fraud. They are fine with fraud. Everyone in America wants voter ID except for progressives. They're desperate for fraud. Look at these fraudsters who want to steal your vote from you with having people here illegally vote. Disgusting, despicable. Don't vote for them. Get out and vote, and don't vote for them, and make your voice heard. If we get enough decent people, we can beat the fraudsters and then pass the legislation necessary to ensure our safe vote in America. Democrats can complain all they want. Keep at it. Don't stop. Don't rest. Don't quit. I mean, 1.3 million people in California. How much more proof do you need? I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Deborah asks a question. Why should gas prices be going up because of what's going on in Iran? Don't forget oil from other countries as well. I'm certainly not. But you have oil from Iraq and other places that comes through the Straits of Hormuz. And you have the market doing what the market does, which is reacting. This thing happened, therefore we engage this reaction. That's what it is. And if you have these major oil producers, these oil producing areas where they're not able to get the oil to the market, you still have demand and you have less supply. Price goes up. So yes, there are other places. I wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree. But right now, the reaction is, I don't know if any of it's rational. Would it have been rational if it was only at $88? Would it be rational if it stayed at $77? It has to be over $90 to be rational, $100. That's just it. This could all come down on Monday. This could all come down in another hour. So let us take it slow and easy. I've got my interview with Guy Relford coming up in a little bit, and we will go on from there. The radio show is in break, so we're going to take the break right now. So smoke them if you got them. Hang loose, and we'll be back in a little bit. Stay here, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I'm going to bring you my conversation with Guy Relford, Relford Law, Second Amendment attorney, Second Amendment expert on this Supreme Court case, which is very interesting, about weed and firearms. By the way, I do discuss this. I will get into this. Trump actually discussed the idea. First of all, he wants absolute unconditional surrender from the Iranians, and then said that we would help rebuild. I'm not interested in rebuilding. I am very interested in getting their oil to a world market and helping them use that money to help them rebuild. So if that's the argument, which I believe is the Trump system, I get it. But if we're making the conversation of we should be spending our money to rebuild Iran, no. They can use their money to rebuild Iran. 10,000% is what should happen. Let's get back to the shows. We're coming back to the radio show. My conversation about the Second Amendment and weed. When I first saw the case, I'm like, I don't understand what this case is all about. No part of it made sense. Can you be stoned and shoot your weapon at someone? I mean, I thought that was the case. I thought that was the conversation. Maybe it's a little more in-depth. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. This is the case, the United States versus Hemani. The United States versus Hemani, Hemani, where the Supreme Court has already heard the case, and this was a question of whether a habitual user of marijuana is still able to possess a firearm. I have many thoughts. Guy Relford joins me right now. Guy Relford is a Second Amendment attorney. He is also a radio host on my home station of 93.1 FM WIBC. He is known as the gun guy throughout central Indiana as a whole. He is engaged as a lawyer on some of the most high-profile cases in the state, never mind in America. He is also the founder of the 2A Project. Let's start where we start here, because this case kind of flew under the radar until it was heard by the Supreme Court this week, and people were saying, whoa, I could be stoned and shoot? Walk me through, take me through the basics here. What is this case about?
Yeah, this case is about the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 and how it intersects with the federal laws dealing with who can and cannot possess a firearm, Tony. And under 18 USC, which is U.S. Code 922G, that's a broad category, several categories of people who cannot legally possess firearms under federal law. If you go to G3 subsection, it says if you're an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance, an illegal drug, then you cannot possess a firearm. And marijuana is still a Controlled Substances Act under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. As ridiculous as that might be, and as unrelated as that might be to the dangerousness of marijuana, and that's an issue that came up during the arguments in this case, it's still illegal at the federal level. So Hemani is a guy who was found with marijuana in his apartment in Texas. and he was also in possession of a gun there in his apartment. They arrested him, and he went to trial. The trial court said, you know what, I think this statute is unconstitutional because there's no nexus, there's no logical connection between occasional marijuana use. And that's the allegation here. He admitted to being a regular user of marijuana. No evidence that he was high on marijuana at the same time he actually possessed a gun. But the statute says an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. Well, he said, yeah, I use marijuana regularly. On that basis, he was prosecuted. Again, trial court said, no, this looks unconstitutional to me. I don't think this holds muster under Supreme Court precedents that say there has to be some historical analog that says at the time of the founding, there were similar kinds of laws. And that's from the Bruin decision, which you remember from back in 2022. It went up to the Court of Appeals, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, that handles appeals from Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And the Fifth Circuit said, we agree with the trial court. This is unconstitutional. And the government appealed that. So yes, Trump's DOJ is actually the one appealing the decision of unconstitutionality out of the Fifth Circuit, and it went up to the Supreme Court. And as you just mentioned, oral argument was just earlier this week on Monday, I believe. And based on an oral argument now, we can start prognosticating what the court's going to do with it.
Let's hold on just right there, because you said something that I think it hit my ear peculiar, which was the idea about this guy was high. He admits to being a casual user of marijuana. He owns a gun, but you use the term possessing a firearm. You possessing a gun. Do we see those things as different? The idea of ownership versus the idea of possession? Does there have to be, is the difference in use, in purpose, in presentation?
Well, it's a great question. And all of the federal prohibitions and most state prohibitions talking about who cannot have a firearm all focus on possession, not ownership. So in other words, I may own several guns, but let's say I'm convicted of a felony and now I can't legally own a gun under federal law under a different provision of 922G. Well, if I give all my guns to a friend and say, hold these guns for me, I still own them. I want them back when I win my case at the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, you can hold these for me. I'm not breaking any law, even under the government's interpretation, because I don't physically possess them. Now, possession can take two actual forms. There's actual possession and constructive possession. Actual possession is it's in my immediate physical control. Constructive possession is where I have both the means and the intent to exercise dominion and control over that firearm. So in other words, it's in my car, it's under the seat. I'm the only one in the car. I have constructive possession of it, even though I don't physically have it in my hand or what. That's called constructive possession. But to your question, the focus is always on possession, not ownership.
That sounds just flat out nutty. Talking to Guy Relford, RelfordLaw.com, Second Amendment attorney, also the founder of the 2A Project. Now, this case gets to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is trying to decipher this argument. They're trying to decipher the idea of drug use and firearms ownership. Before we get to where the Supreme Court and the questions that you heard and what you think they meant, if we're trying to read the tea leaves, what is the standard thought process? You're a guy who teaches firearms safety. You've done work, of course, being with the NRA and a host of others. You're known for your work on this subject. You've written books on firearms safety. What is the standard thought process of what we'll create a broad brush here, gun owners in America?
On this case?
On the idea of drug use and or casual drug use or even drinking and firearms.
I think, and that's a broad category of people that I wouldn't attempt to speak for, but I think my interpretation of at least a consensus would be that where there's no connection between actual dangerousness, that is taking something, being in such an altered state or otherwise that makes you dangerous and too dangerous to own a firearm, absent some connection between a prohibition and dangerousness, then I think those laws are unconstitutional. And I think the vast majority of gun owners would agree with me. I think there's a smaller percentage, a minority, who would say, well, wait a minute, unless you're in jail and physically taken off the street, if you're not so dangerous as to be in prison, and the government lets you out to be among the rest of society, then you're by definition not so dangerous that you should be deprived of your constitutional rights. And there's some logic actually behind that, even though I think it's more a minority position. But certainly when there's no nexus, there's no connection between dangerousness and a prohibition. For instance, we're going to see a case at the Supreme Court not so long from now, I'm sure, eventually, that looks at whether nonviolent felons can be prohibited under the exact same analysis that the Supreme Court's undergoing in this Hemani case. Because if I cheated on my taxes, or in one actual case, I lied on my application for food stamps, does that make me so dangerous as to not be able to possess a firearm? I think the answer is obviously no, but that's the way the law works today. You're going to see a similar challenge. So coming back to Hemani, if occasional, even regular marijuana use with no evidence that you're high at the time you physically possess a gun, that's an important distinction. You occasionally use marijuana, but no evidence that when you picked up a gun, you were so stoned as to be dangerous. That, I think, is what the court is going to have a hard time with. And I think it's going to be a thin majority. I think you may see some strange bedfellows. I think you may see some traditional liberal justices here side with more conservative ones. You may see some that conservative justices that go the other way that simply want to be deferential to Congress. So I think it's going to be interesting, and you may see an interesting mix on this. But based on the questions, the challenges, the statements from justices at the oral argument, you may see a thin majority in favor of the gun owner here. Let's get into that. Talking to Guy Relford. He's known as the gun guy on radio, relfordlaw.com, Second Amendment attorney, Second Amendment expert that we use here on Tony Katz today. And when you take a look at how the Supreme Court was asking the questions, this is how Shooting News Weekly put it. It appears the Supreme Court is likely to let marijuana users own guns. And then there was this going back to October of 2025, when this case was first known about. This was Gun Owners of America, gunowners.org, which I do not have any connection with. I don't know if you have any connection with. And they write, Department of Justice intentionally handpicked the worst facts for gun owners. So talk to me about the case that was made by the federal government, and then the questions that were asked by the Supreme Court. How did it leaving you feeling, knowing that Shooting News Weekly, for example, amongst others, thought that the questions led to the idea of, you're going to be able to smoke marijuana and still own a gun? Yeah, I'm less than cautiously optimistic. I think, again, if I had to bet the mortgage, I think my prediction is you're going to see a thin majority in favor of the gun owner here, but I would not be surprised by to see it go the other way. I don't think it'll be a big swing either way. For instance, the Chief Justice seemed to want to give Congress a lot of deference. He challenged Hemani's lawyer to say, well, wait a minute, if Congress has made a determination, that a factual determination that a broad category of people here, illegal drug users, are dangerous, then who are we as a court to interfere with that decision coming from the legislature? And isn't that more the legislature's job than the judiciary's job? And you could see some conservative justices wanting to go that direction. At the same time, you had Justice Gorsuch actually make a point, which I did on the radio before the oral argument. I made the same one on the radio, which was, hold on, if the analog here that's required, the justices have to cite some historical examples of regulations under the Second Amendment that were deemed appropriate and constitutional under the Second Amendment that are similar, that are analogs, that apply the same logic. And some of the analogs were, for instance, there were laws at the time of the founding where governments could disarm habitual drunkards. And the government said, well, there you go. If you can disarm habitual drunkards, we can disarm habitual marijuana users. And Justice Gorsuch said, hold on, that's drunkards, not occasional users of alcohol. And there's a big difference, because here he was an occasional user of marijuana. There's no evidence he was so high as to be incapacitated. And the drunkard statute from way back in the day, we're looking at people who couldn't manage their own affairs because they were drunk all the time. That's not what we're dealing with here. And by the way, if you're going to say that applies to occasional users of marijuana, you just disqualified all of the founders. regular users of alcohol is what I meant to say. If you're trying to say that applies to the occasional, even regular use of alcohol, then you just disqualified all of the founders. And that, it was a powerful point. It's one I made on the radio before the oral argument. And I think that indicates where Gorsuch is going to go. But it's going to be an odd combination of justices on this ruling, is my prediction.
Do you find, you talk about Van Bruin and some of the other decisions that even the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in favor of the gun owner and the right to keep and bear arms means on one's person. Do you think that they engage some of these kinds of responses and decisions in favor of gun ownership with resentment? Like they're really left no course because the Second Amendment says what it says and doesn't say what it doesn't say. Do you find that the court would like to find an out? Like, for example, when you talk about John Roberts saying, well, Congress this and Congress that is standard for him. That goes back to his position on Obamacare and a host of other things, and just recently decisions. Do you find the court searching for a reason to turn down the gun owner? Or has the court become, at least this court, kind of accepting of the fact that the gun owner has rights and it's simply, there's nothing that's going to change that?
I think it depends on which justice. I guess there's a mixed bag to answer your question. For instance, I think Justice Thomas is a firm believer in the Second Amendment. He's the one that consistently comes out after the Supreme Court denies certiorari in cases where they won't review a case. He says, come on, we got to start taking more of these cases. The Second Amendment is not a second-class citizen when it comes to the Bill of Rights. It occupies equal stature with everything else in the Bill of Rights, and we need to start treating it as such. He's a true believer on that. I think Gorsuch is strong. Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh have both written very strong opinions, even as Court of Appeals judges before they became members of the Supreme Court, that indicate, I think, a strong pro-Constitution, pro-Second Amendment leaning. I think others are more resigned to the fact, as you said, the Constitution says what it says. But I think here you may even get some more traditional liberal justices, and I'm thinking here about Sotomayor and Kagan, those two justices who may be more focused on the marijuana side of it than the Second Amendment side of it, but to say, hold on, what's the rationale for depriving this whole class of people? When there's not been a designation, there's not been any kind of fact finding of dangerousness when the scheduling of a drug occurs. And what I mean by that is this: is marijuana is currently a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. That means it's up there with heroin and methamphetamine and cocaine as being one of the worst in terms of being addictive and worst in terms of harmful effects and potential for overdose. And to put marijuana in that same category is somewhat ridiculous. And there's some interesting history behind that that has a very much of a political bent to it, which is interesting history. But when in deciding that marijuana went in to be scheduled at all or to become a Schedule I, Congress never made any kind of fact finding as to whether or not being high on marijuana makes you dangerous, makes you more inclined to commit some violent act than any other drug, prescription or non, controlled or non. And a lot of justices in this oral argument focused on that to say, hold on, you're saying Congress made a broad prohibition based on their determination that certain drugs make you dangerous, but that's not what happens when you put a drug into a particular schedule under the Controlled Substances Act. They categorize them on entirely different set of criteria, which are things like addictiveness and potential for side effects and harm and overdose and death. Never, if they use this drug, they're going to go commit violent acts. And since that was never part of the fact finding, how can you rely on that as justification? And I think that's a powerful argument that even a couple of the liberal justices like Sotomayor very much picked up on.
That right there is Guy Relford. He's known as the gun guy, a Second Amendment attorney. Relford, R-E-L-F-O-R-D. RelfordLaw.com is where you find him. Check it out for yourself. And founder of the 2A Project. Is that 2aproject.org?
It is .com.
.com, my mistake.
Yeah, the 2aproject.com.
Just that easy. Guy, always a pleasure. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. What the? There we go. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today, guys. Good to be with you. Caroline Levitt is speaking to reporters. I'll actually hold on that. I'll bring it to you in just a little bit. She's just meeting the press outside there. A nice day in D.C. I figure she just thought she would stretch her legs. So that's what's going on right there. Let me responding to some people who are watching the show here, there, and everywhere. Appreciate that. Appreciate you being here, being a part of what's going on. Let's see what else we've got going on. There we go. Beautiful. Did I miss comments? I apologize for that. I do not live in Indianapolis, so I cannot run for mayor. I'm sorry to disappoint. I think if I lived in Indy proper, I would have thought about it. But I like all people who are criminally insane, I've thought about public life, and I kind of feel like I'm just getting good at what I'm doing. Maybe there's a place. Maybe there is. We'll see. Right now, let's get back to the radio show.
Message to Americans who think
That's Representative Ocasio-Cortez pretending she's an intellectual. Now, ask her about her position on Taiwan and China. You know, I think that Americans, they like the idea that everything's going to be wrapped up in a bow. It's boom. This thing. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to work. It's very simple. Sometimes it's not simple. But when you're engaged in a level of coordination, where you are taking out the ability for the Chinese to get oil from Venezuela, taking out the ability for the Chinese to get oil from Iran. Now you're going to eliminate their ability to connect with having a foothold in the Western Hemisphere by keeping Cuba at bay. That sounds like a strategy. Sounds like a good one. Oh, is it perfect? Is it all wrapped up in a bow? No, I concur. But the idea that there's no strategy, I'm not totally on board with that. And remember, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to say we're hiding from the Epstein files when more files got released today. So silly. This is Tony Katz today. Sorry that the audio didn't play for you. I can try it again.
what's your message to Americans who think that bombing of Iran was in some way sort of intended to distract Americans from the Epstein files?
Well, listen, I think we're seeing this pattern, right? Trump has impulsively went in on Venezuela. He impulsively went in on Iran. There was no exit and no end game for either of these situations. It led to increased global instability everywhere he goes. And every time he's done that, it has been consistent with a spike or a revelation in what is happening with the Epstein files.
And then I listen to people like her, and I say to myself, maybe I should run for Congress, because honestly, how tough could it be? Seriously, she's there. How tough could it be?
I don't think that coincidence is something to dismiss off the cuff. I think that he feels existentially tied to it. And I actually think that it is one reason that he must be removed from office, because if the Epstein files has such a hold on President Trump and this administration that they are willing to plunge us and risk world war in order to save themselves politically, that is a person, the definition of someone that cannot make objective decisions for the American people.
She doesn't believe Iran and the regime and the support of terrorism is a threat. Just where she's at. She said the words. Don't look at me. Don't get angry with me. She's the one who said it. That's who she is. God, it would just be nice for everybody to be normal. Meanwhile, you have a release of Epstein files today. So what are we discussing? So absolutely, absolutely maddening. It is infuriating stuff. I get that wholeheartedly. Absolutely infuriating stuff. So I have got Caroline Leavitt right here making her way. So this happened earlier. She's there. They call that Pebble Beach. They're at the White House. That's where everybody is set up and doing their live shots of the White House. And that's where everyone hangs out. It rains. And they're in there. And it's cold. And it's in there. And it's the life. They do this every day. And so she walked out to where the reporters are hanging out. And she's like, yeah, let's chat. I don't know how many, by the way, does anybody know? I was going to say, I don't know, but I should ask. Does anybody know how many months pregnant Caroline Leavitt is? I was wondering if she was going to be. Okay, I knew it wasn't. Oh, I knew it wasn't this month, but I thought it was close. It's March, son. It's 2 months away. That's my point. Yes. It is 9 months for pregnancy, producer Landon. By the way, people do freak out. It is interesting. Her husband is 60. She's 28. Now, it is equally interesting that you know who else had a huge age gap as press secretary? Dana Perino. Yes. Caroline Leavitt took a stroll, she did, to meet with the press on Pebble Beach. That's the area right outside the White House where all the press is set up and all the cameras are set up. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. She wants to chat. We want to hear what she has to say. You've got the war with Iran. You've got, of course, the inability, the unwillingness to fund the Department of Homeland Security from the Democrats, the firing of Kristi Noem. I don't know. Can we hear her? Do we have this all set up?
You're getting close to your due date, and so
Oh.
hi everybody. First to produce
American-made
ammunitions, weapons.
We're not going through all of this so that we can end up with another.
You telling me my microphone isn't working for this? I'm going to go crazy.
Does that mean that this current mentality?
Head of the president on
No, man.
broadcasting anytime.
It is not. I'm going to try and make it work. I'm going to see if I can put it together because I want to see what she had to say. Trying to figure out whether or not she's got the answers. I thought we had it earlier. No, we do not. That is nutty right there. We will try and get it to you. As for the firing of Kristi Noem, we may have very well been on it. We may have very well been on it when we shared the clip regarding Senator John Kennedy, that it could have been about the money, the $220 million spent on ads. It's what this could have all been about. Meanwhile, let me bring it back to Caroline Levitt here, who started this press conference there outside with the press corps, talking about a whole series of subjects.
Here, it's a busy day here, as you all know. The president will be meeting with defense contractors here at the White House in a few minutes with Secretary Hegseth. This is a pre-scheduled meeting, and the purpose of it is to talk about the president's aggressive and fierce support for rapidly increasing the ability of U.S. manufacturers to produce American-made weapons, which we know are the best in the world. The president signed an executive order on this earlier this year. This is a long-held policy objective of this administration. And so he'll be speaking directly with these defense contractors. But of course, as the president has maintained, we have more than enough ammunitions, weapons, stockpiles to achieve the objectives of Operation Epic Fury and beyond.
Now, Pete Hegseth has been very clear that, of course, we have the firepower. Let's not be ridiculous. I want to be clear. Of course, we have the firepower. Could we not be ridiculous? Wanting to ensure we have the firepower, I got no issue with that at all. Zero issue with that. And if you want to engage Defense Production Act and look at some companies and say, hey, let's get this going, I think that's fine. I don't think it's actually necessary. And I would be incredibly bothered if it was necessary. And I'd be asking what the hell we've been spending the money on if we are out of bullets or bombs. Wanting to replace the bullets or bombs, that I can appreciate. The questions continued for the press secretary.
The president said that we're not going through all of this so that we can end up with another Khamenei. And he also said that we can keep this up forever. Does that mean that this current mentality in Iran remains in place? You're going to have to keep doing the fight.
I won't get ahead of the president on broadcasting any timelines. What I will tell you is what President Trump has already laid out, which is that the achievable objectives of Operation Epic Fury, we expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks. And we are well on our way to achieving those objectives. Annihilating Iran's Navy, we know that we've sunk more than 30 Iranian vessels and ships. Their Navy has now been deemed combat ineffective. Taking out the ballistic missile threat that Iran posed to the United States and our troops and bases in the region, we have done a tremendous job. The United States military has done a tremendous job at achieving that objective thus far. Just 6 days in, the retaliatory ballistic missile strikes from Iran are now down 90%. Of course, assuring Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon as well, and significantly weakening their proxies in the region, which we know are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And we've seen Hezbollah and the Houthis hardly putting up a fight over the course of the last 6 days. Ultimately, the president has made it very clear he wants to take out the threat of Iran to the United States, and Operation Epic Fury is well on its way to doing that. As for the future of Iran, as the president has pointed to, of course it's in the best interest of the United States of America for Iran to no longer be led by a radical terrorist regime that chants death to America and is lying to the United States and the world about their secret ambitions to possess a nuclear bomb. President Trump does not want to see that. He wants to take an interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be. And that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating it.
Now, she sidestepped the idea of rebuilding. The president should come out clearly. They've got oil money. We're going to get that oil to the market. No more sanctions on that. They're going to be a very rich country, and they'll be able to pay for their rebuilding. And then he's going to follow it up with, are we taking bets? Are we taking bets, guys? Because here's what he's going to follow it up with. He's going to follow it up with, and we've got some great American companies that will be able to help them rebuild. Is anybody questioning that? Because if you're questioning that, you're out of your mind if you're questioning that. The conversations about Iran continued, and Caroline Leavitt was very clear that we are absolutely decimating these people.
But you just said on Fox that it doesn't really matter if Russia is giving Iran information about military assets. Why doesn't it matter if U.S. military is put in danger by Russia? And is that what the president believes as well?
What I meant, Kristen, and thank you for giving me a chance to make it very clear, is that it clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran, because we are completely decimating them. As I said earlier, we've taken out nearly 30 of their ships. Their Navy has been deemed combat ineffective, 90% reduction in ballistic missile retaliatory strikes against the United States and our Gulf Arab and partners in the region. So, of course, we are achieving the military objectives of this operation, and that is going to continue because the United States military is the best and most lethal fighting force in the world.
We know this, but I want to be clear, decimated is not the right term here. It's the term she used, but as a matter of just words have meaning, decimate would be 10%. Deci. The Iranian Navy, as reported, has 90 active vessels in 2026. 7 frigates, 3 corvettes, 6 submarines, which I assume are Russian submarines. You've got 24 amphibious ships, 21 patrol boats, and 17 support and auxiliary ships. So take the 17 right out. And now you're down to 83. The patrol boats can fire, but they're certainly not going to do anything against some of our hardware. So could we argue that you take the 21, but you not leave the 21 in? Leave the 21 in. They've got 90. You take out the 17, that's 73. We've taken out 30 ships. That leaves them 43 ships. That's way more than decimate. Just for the sake of clarity, for understanding words. That's what it is. We have seen that we have air, not what a general referred to, I believe it was a general, referred to as superiority. We have air supremacy going on. The only question is, at what moment does the Iranian regime collapse? At what moment do you break the IRGC? This is the only thing for us to discuss. If the argument is going to be they are shooting less and less missiles every day because they have less and less missiles to shoot, because we take out their mobile launchers, because we take out their sites, because we take out their people, because we take out their command and control. We have control of their satellites. We have control of their television. We can broadcast anything we choose. We can share anything. We can win the propaganda war. At what moment, then, do we discuss the breaking of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? We have been talking about this since the beginning because we understood the focus of what has to happen. But when Trump says he wants a hand in picking the new leader, and when he says he wants unconditional surrender, what I am hearing, and I'm willing to admit what I am hoping, I am not so naive to think that I'm going to get what I want and that everybody's talking about the same things. What I am hoping is what he is saying, what the president is saying is, no part of the current regime will be part of new leadership. That's over. That is the only way this works. Absolutely no part of the Iranian regime, no Islamist, no one who is Islamist looking, no one who is eastward looking, none of that. Persia must be Persia again. Caroline Leavitt was also asked about the firing of Kristi Noem and the soon-to-be confirmation fight for Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, who has been nominated to replace Noem as the Secretary of Homeland Security.
On the president's decision to tap Markwayne Mullin as the next DHS secretary, can you talk a little bit about the rationale for the choice, why Mullin was the best candidate in his eyes, and also your message to congressional Democrats who continue to keep the DHS unfunded?
Yeah, well, Senator Markwayne Mullin has been a strong friend of the president and a big supporter of the president's immigration policies. Not only that, he's exceptionally talented, qualified, and I know well respected by his peers on Capitol Hill from both sides of the aisle. So we look forward to his expeditious confirmation, and I know the White House will be working with our...
Let's be clear. This is not going to be an expeditious confirmation. Please don't try and sell me that. This is going to be painful and stupid, which is actually the name of my new book about the squad. It is going to be awful. For no reason awful. It is going to be the worst. Of course he should be confirmed. There's no reason he shouldn't be confirmed. None. But it's going to be 900 questions about what are you going to do about ICE? How are you going to handle ICE? What is about ICE? Do you think they're going to believe any answer he gives? Because if I'm Mark Wayne Mullen, if I'm advising Mark Wayne Mullen, I answer the following. ICE is going to continue doing its job and removing every illegal immigrant anywhere they are, regardless of what they claim and regardless of their family life. They're being removed. We can do this humanely. We can do this well. We can do this respectfully within the confines of the law, protecting every member of ICE and law enforcement first and foremost. If that is not to your liking, Senator Democrat, sucks to be you. It's going to be a clown show. I have to cover it, don't I? Yeah, I do. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So did you get that email, producer Landon? Is it hot in the studio where you are? Yeah, temperature-wise. Because we do the show through the home base in Indianapolis, WIBC, and I saw an email where Johnette was saying that it's ridiculously hot in the newsroom. Is it? Yeah, go check. You go check. I want to see if this is true. I want to see if it's accurate. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. There it is. So we're in this new building And it has been, it's still under construction. It is crazy. And so they don't have everything organized yet. And there's these, it's just nutty what's going on. So how hot is it? Is it? Okay. So, all right, let me see if I can help. All right, I went to Dairy Queen. I'm gonna send ice cream. I do this from time to time, people. This is actually happening right here. Should I just get some blizzard? How many people are in the newsroom right now? 4, 5? Just guess. Okay. What do you want? You want a blizzard? You want like an Oreo blizzard? Oh, look at you! Like, all of a sudden, it's like, what? As long as you're ordering, Katz. All right, I'll get. Hold on a second. Okay, so let me go to this. And stop that. Nope, stop. Don't be stupid. All right. And all right, you're gonna have to hang around until it shows up, producer Landon. Okay. All right. Four Reese's Blizzards and 4 Oreo Blizzards. You think that's enough? Okay. I'm going to dig more into this poll with you. It's going to come back up more than once. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. This was a Fox News poll. And the Fox News poll asks a question. Would it be a good thing or a bad thing for the U.S. to move away from capitalism and more towards socialism? The idea that question gets asked just freaks me out to no end. What came from this is that 61% said it would be a bad thing. A bad thing if you had a drift to socialism. 38% said it would be a good thing. And that, children, is a massive problem. Incredible problem. You got to stop sending your kids to public school. You got to keep an eye on what's going on with your kids at all times. What's happening when it comes to the universities? This is horrifying. Considering socialism never created anything, and capitalism creates nothing but opportunities and happiness, this is absolute madness. And it's scary. It is unbelievably scary to witness that this could be that this is where Americans are at. But I say to you that it's fixable. These changes in education, and these changes in education also mean I don't want to hear about how teachers need to get paid more. Not when you're indoctrinating kids. No. We don't pay you more for that. We break the teachers' unions. We don't need you. We'll go about creating other schools. We'll hire teachers. and they'll actually teach math and science and English, and that'll be it. That's enough. It's a frightening bit of polling, but it is fixable. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, man, fun today. Everyone's talking about their ice cream now. So I sent them. I sent them 4 peanut butter blizzards, Reese's peanut butter blizzards, peanut butter cup blizzards, and I sent 4 cookies and cream blizzards. So those are on their way there, Landon. I'll tell you all about it in a minute. I'll actually send this to you right here because you need the secret delivery code. There's a secret code. Did not know that. I appreciate you guys. I am back on Monday. Don't forget to subscribe there on the YouTubes and get everything. And on our way and growing the channel left and right. So appreciate y'all being here and helping make that happen. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to go to TonyKatz.com. Appreciate you like you would not believe. Can't thank you enough. And I will catch you tomorrow, everybody. You guys be good. Have fun. Have a great weekend. Take care.